Hey, Warrior Saints. Glad to have you beautiful people with us as we continue our conversation from yesterday. Yeah, good stuff. I liked what you said, before we jump into some real practical applications, but that we're supposed to, basically you said we're supposed to watch them and learn and, them being the heroes from scripture and make it actionable. St. Paul himself talks about that. We should have written it, but in 1 Corinthians 9 and really in 10 after 9, Paul is talking about, our fathers were all under the cloud, and they were all in the wilderness, and they drank from the spiritual rock, and they ate the heavenly bread, the spiritual bread, which was Christ, and so on. And then he says, that because of their wickedness, meaning the people in the Exodus, that they were overthrown in the wilderness. And he says, now these things were written down, they were warnings for them, but they were written down for us as instruction. I don't know the exact text there. Where did you find it?
I found it. It's in 10:6.
Read it. What's it say exactly?
Hold on 1 second.
Sorry. Yeah, I know you're working.
I'm going to put it on the screen.
No, grab 11.
Grab 11.
Well, 6 and 11.
Okay. Then we're going to go back and get 11.
Get 11, and I'll read 6. So 6, this is 1 Corinthians 10:6. Now, these things are warnings. TP, by the way, TP, types, right? Not warnings. Types for us not to desire evil as they did, right? So Paul says, these things are written down. We're learning these stories, but they're for us, right? As you work on, sorry, did you get it?
Almost.
Should I tell a joke? Am I delaying?
No, I need to get to 11. I had 10, but it's 11.
I understand. You have something on your lip here.
It's up. It's up.
Now,
these things happened to them as a warning, but they were written down for our instruction, upon whom the end of the ages has come.
Right.
Like, they're not just there to warn us, but they're there to teach us.
Call us into it. Yep.
It's like you say all the time. Your instructions to the older child are so the younger child hears.
Yep.
So when we send my daughter to timeout and then turn to my son and say, now, do you want a timeout? And he says, no, I don't want to go to timeout.
Yeah.
He's gotten the message.
That's exactly it. I was going there. That's what started all this, is like with, your oldest, it's done. She's judged, right? Like, God has already brought his judgment upon those people. You have already judged her. She's in the corner. So the real message, the power comes to your son, right? Yeah. And that real message that is written down, what Paul is saying, is that all of that stuff, i.e. Noah and Abraham and Moses and all the rest that we were talking about, is to help us make it actionable. I don't know. I know that's an aside and a tangent, but I think it's important for us and our audience so when we're reading scripture, like, you're not looking at it as though, this is a historical blow by blow as much as an instruction. I mean, Paul even just says it, he even uses that word. Anyways. All right. So now ramble over to answer your questions. I mean, what do we do? How do we implement commitment? I have a couple of thoughts. Maybe we can talk through some of them, and let's just see where some of this practical application goes. The first thing is that I really think, and I'm not a big fan of it until like in the last 2 weeks. Yeah. I think you need to write it down.
Without question.
Like, I'm talking about, get a journal or whatever you want to call it, the Warrior Saints journal, and actually write it out. I've been doing that. I've always resisted that throughout my life. Well, that's dumb, But I finally decided to, since enough people say it, I'll give it a shot. And boy, there is something about, hand and pen to paper that's even more powerful than typing it on a laptop or, a tablet or whatever it may be. And so I think you need to sit down and actually write out, I am going to XYZ. These are my goals. These are the things that I'm committed to. My long-term goals, meaning for life. And then my goal of today, I'm going to accomplish these few things.
Yeah, it's like we talked about last week. You got to draw out the plan.
Right.
You need a roadmap. You need to be able to say, these are the steps that I'm going to take. These are the things that are going to happen. And you can't do that until you've written down your plan.
Yeah.
Like, you can't physically see it. And there is something hugely important mentally. I mean, we debate about this stuff all the time, with not just writing down that stuff, anything that you're committing to, like our commitment cards in the parish. It's important to have an actual piece of paper that someone signs their name to. There's an effort but there's a mental commitment that
Yeah.
goes with writing and signing that. When I used to work at summer camp and run a ropes course for that summer camp, we would do something called a full value contract.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't mean that there was actually a piece of paper necessarily that everything was written down on, but we would talk with the group, talk through all the ideas of this is what our group's commitments to being in this group are going to be. We would write them all down. It could be something like a volleyball, like a big piece of paper, but whatever it was, the point was everyone then signed it.
Yeah.
Everyone had something tangible that they could put their hands around. That was, these are the steps. These are the things that we are doing as a group.
Yeah. I love it. So, I mean, I guess then the answer to your question, the first answer is, what do you do? How do you make it actionable? Write it down. I mean, literally write down the words in your journal, and you don't have to show anybody. Just it's you, between you and God. I am going to commit to X, Y, and Z, or whatever it may be. And then, really as detailed as you can is draw out, like you were saying, that plan. And then literally, I think you've got to put that plan that you've now drawn out into your calendar. I always say it like this. On Monday, I am the master of my calendar. It is under my authority, and I plan Tuesday. And Tuesday, I am the slave of my calendar. So that now that I've made the plan, I just execute. Because if I don't, I'm going to tend to wander. I'm going to wander all over the place, not just physically, but, So, put it in that calendar. Whatever's important to you is scheduled.
Yeah. And then my only disagreement with what you just said is you said don't show it to anybody. You got to show it to at least one person. You got to have someone that you're working with, that you trust, that knows you, that can keep you in check, that holds you accountable.
Yeah.
Like whether you call it an accountability partner, you call it a mentor, you call it a guide, you call it whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But have someone that you are able to talk to. So like I started going to the gym again. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I have a trainer that keeps me accountable because I've paid for a session with this trainer, and I've now scheduled that session with the trainer, and then he is going to hold me accountable. But it's easy because it's just a transactional relationship to let that one float by or to skip or to cancel at the last minute, whatever. So I always try to text someone else, whether it's my wife or you, and let them know I'm on my way or I just left. Not for any other reason than it keeps me accountable, knowing that that's why you always get those random texts. I just left the gym. It's keeping me accountable because I know that I'm going to say that because I want to hold myself accountable.
Yeah.
We might not have even ever talked about it.
Right.
Until this very moment as I'm talking about it. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I keep texting you. Hey, just left the gym. But it keeps me accountable mentally.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I wonder if you could put the light bulb. I will now be more gracious to those text messages, but the accountability, I mean, it's so important. I mean, there's tons of data and science that talks about it,
And you don't even have to respond.
Yeah.
It's just that I've done it.
Right.
And then I've sent it. And then but I know that if I don't send it, then at least for me, I'll feel like I was letting someone down.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's exactly where I was going to go, is that having someone who holds you accountable, there is a psychology behind it that I feel guilty if I, have committed to somebody or with somebody to something and that somehow I let them down.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so it's that sometimes that pull, it's strong. It made me think of another thing too. So as you know, here's another one is that I like to run for exercise. My cardio, I like to run and I'm committed to it. My goal is to run every single day. I don't always do that. I plan it every day because, sometimes life happens and you have, sick people in the hospital to visit or whatever happens and it throws off. So if I have like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday plan and I miss one, I'm blown the week, right? So the plan for me is every day. Now, having said that, I can tell you this. I do not want to run every single day. When I wake up and it's time, I'm like, oh, dude. And I have no, there are some days I just have no interest. Somehow, which maybe we'll get to at the end, but I'm able to force myself. And by, 1/4 of a mile, 1/2 of a mile at the beginning, I'm miserable, I'm complaining, I'm whining. But then all of a sudden, once the juice is flowing, I'm like, yeah, because there's a lot there. Again, more psychology to that like, yeah, I didn't quit on it. Because I've never felt bad after a run. I have always felt bad skipping a run, right? So so there's that psychology, the excitement of that I got into it. The other thing, I mean, literally, once the juices start flowing, meaning in your body and chemically and so on, it's a great feeling. And so maybe the first, or I guess we're at our third point, but one of the things that we need to do is just start. In spite of how you may be feeling about it, you just got to get in motion. Start taking action. Forget motion. How about that?
Yeah.
Take action. Do one little thing, and hopefully it kind of snowballs and tumbles into the other.
Yeah, you got to build on that. Once you have that small win, I left the gym, you build on it by not stopping at Dairy Queen on your way out of the gym. And then you build on that by eating a sensible dinner afterwards. Yeah. And then you build on that and you just keep building. It's similar in a lot of ways to something you talked about in the past called habit stacking, where once you start building that stuff, you just keep building on it. You keep pushing that flywheel, getting that momentum going and going and going and going and going and going.
Yeah.
And then you keep bulldozing it.
Yeah.
Then you start to see the results.
Yeah.
And when you start to see the results, that's another way to keep building, keep building.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Maybe the last part is we can talk about, and then we can wrap up and let our beautiful warrior saints back to their lives. But we could come up with all the plans, and they can come up with their own plans too. Like write it down, draw the plan, execute, do it when you don't feel like it. Just get in motion, build on the small wins. But what happens when it's hard, when it's uncomfortable, when it's scary? At some moment, well, maybe at many moments, it just becomes that in order to maintain the commitment, it simply takes a sheer act of will. Of willpower to say, I have no interest, I don't want, but I'm gonna. And those are hard moments because I don't know that there is anything magical. It's definitely not going to make you feel good about it. That somehow, God's going to sprinkle inspiration juice all over you. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't feeling good, but now I am. Some days it's just simply, I have to grind even though I have no desire.
Yeah. Those days suck.
Yeah, they do. They do.
But flip side of that is I know from those days that getting through that sheer act of will always pays off.
Yeah.
Always. It almost always feels like at that point it was worth it.
Yeah.
Because the other side of that buffeting is great.
Yeah. Yeah, great stuff. It's kind of like the part of it too that that whole idea of the Seinfeld streak.
Yeah.
He would write jokes and he would put a big red X on his calendar. So he didn't want to break the streak. I mean, part of that's reward, Again, psychology is amazing how it all works like that. And so in some sense too, like I don't like breaking my streaks of my runs or whatever it is, So sometimes that sheer act of will, as difficult as it is, forcing yourself to do something you don't feel like doing, that's where the greatest payoff comes. I know, like you think about, we started with athletes with Pat Tillman, you wrap it around with Olympic athletes. Those guys and gals train for years, 4 years, maybe even more, throughout their life. It's like, you can imagine there's no way that every single day they are excited about jumping in the pool or running on the track or lifting weights or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's that sheer act of will that takes them to elite. And I think, we can wrap here with the same idea for us as warrior saints. I mean, if we want to be exceptional men and women and living the life, transformative lives. I mean, like you said earlier, transactional, fine, go. But if you want to live a transformative life, you've got to be committed. And you've got to fight through when it's easy, love it. But you got to fight through the difficult moments when it's not easy, not fun. But that's the stuff, of which warrior saints are born. Great stuff. Loved it. Fun today.
It was good.
All right, we'll be back on Sunday with Orthros and Liturgy at 9 and 10, respectively. Glad to have you beautiful people with us. Thanks for joining us. Check out warriorsaints.org. We have so many goodies there. There is a new thing we are putting out in our Understanding the Bible. It is called The Stories. where we are telling and teaching about the stories that we find in Scripture, whether it be Abraham, right, with the slaying of, or the the test with Isaac and Noah and Moses and on and on. I mean, there's some great David and Goliath, all that stuff's in there. It's
Yeah.
great because you will find that we don't teach it quite like your standard Sunday school. I mean, we really are trying to help you understand what the text is saying. So check it out, grab it. It's $25, dude. Come on. Let's get on the road. All right. I love you. We'll be back, as I said, Sunday, and then we'll be back again Monday with our crucifixion live stream as always. Keep walking on the way of the warrior saint.